City of Northglenn, Channel 8, keeping you informed of events in your community.
I'd like to open the City Council meeting for December 14th. Joanna, would you call the roll, please?
Mayor Downing.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Dodge.
Here.
Councilmember Snetzinger.
Here.
Councilmember Mollica.
Here.
Councilmember Sowers.
Here.
Councilmember Joe Brown. Here. Councilmember Becky Brown.
Here.
Councilmember Whitman.
Here.
Councilmember Escabel.
Here.
Thank you. Would you stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Are there any agenda additions or deletions from council? Okay. Seeing none, the next thing on the agenda is some holiday entertainment, and I would invite council to go into the audience so we can see the Northglenn Chorale as they perform tonight, because they will be facing the camera. So why don't we go down? And the Northglenn Chorale.
Oh, will you? Yes. I love you too.
On December 5 and 20, boom, boom, boom. On December 5 and 20, boom, boom, boom. Of a child was born this night, so rosy white, so rosy white. So boom, boom, in a stable mean and lowly, boom, boom, boom. On December 5 and 20, boom, 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 boom. On December 5 and 20, boom, boom, boom. On December's most important day, let us be gay, let us be gay. God will send us days of feasting, boom, 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 boom. God will send us days of feasting, boom, boom, boom. Over hot months and in cold, for young and old, for young and old. But we tell His story, ever singing of His glory, boom, boom, boom.
Thank you very much. As introduced, we are members of the Northglenn Chorale. My name is Jill Parsons, and I have the pleasure of being the president of the board of directors. And I wanted to thank the City Council, the mayor, and city staff for including us in your holiday spirit. And I wanted to wish you all happy holidays and Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. Hanukkah is over, so Merry Christmas, Happy New Year.
Bum,
Hark, bells ring, silver bells all seem to say, throw cares away. Christmas is here, bringing good cheer to young and old, meek and the bold. Ding dong, down is the song, ring, joyful ring, all caroling.
One seems to hear words of good cheer from everywhere, filling the air. Oh, how they bow, raising the sound. Oh, hear the tale, telling the tone, giving the ring, while people sing songs of good cheer. Christmas is here. Ding dong, is the song, ding joyful ring, dong is the song, ding dong, ding dong, ding joyful tone, ding
Christmas is here, bringing good cheer to young and old, meek and the bold. Ding dong, God is his song, ring, joyful ring, all caroling.
One seems to hear words of good cheer from everywhere, filling the air. Oh, how they pound, raising the sound. Oh, hear the tale, telling the tale, giving the ring, while people sing songs of good cheer. Christmas is here. Ding dong, bang is the sound. Ding joyful ring, dong, ding dong, ding joyful tone, ding. On they stand on without end, their joyful tone to every home.
Ding dong, ding dong.
Would council
She's so cute, isn't she?
Carol?
Di.
Council Jerry down here, please.
What?
Is Terry here? Terry? I don't see. Maybe not? Okay, I guess we'll wait a little bit. Okay, we get a presentation, but he didn't, he's not here yet, so we'll just, all right.
So we'll wait for you to try and move the kids here.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. All right. Next, we have presentations. The chief, are you going to do the no shave, or how is this?
How about I introduce
Okay.
that actually,
All right. Why don't you? I'm not sure how this is going to go.
Mayor, Council, good evening. Actually, what I'm going to do is, for the last 3 years, we've been actually, the officers talked me into, No Shave November. And for me, that's pretty tough because I'm a pretty traditional guy, and any facial hair drives me crazy in uniform. However, it's such a great cause. I think this year, we're like $10,000 or $11,000 in the last 3 years that we raised for the Relay for Life and the American Cancer Society. So with that, those that actually got this thing up and going, if Justin Lauk, Jamie Thibodeau, so just don't stand back there. And, for Jamie, I'm letting him hold on to his for a little bit longer. So you can actually see, what your officers look like during the month of November.
Is that just a month?
And I'll bring up Sergeant Jim Gardner, who actually started growing his beard last January and hasn't shaved yet. And Commander John Rosecrans, if they can come up.
Yes.
And actually, could I have Susan Waldeman come up and Gail Morvetz from Relay for Life to accept the check?
Well, then you take pictures.
So this year, you raised,
Turn around to the camera.
where's the camera?
Wow, he's a feature.
$4,335 raised by the Northglenn Police Department. A lot of help, too many names to mention right now. Special thank you to Wayne Dodge, he did a great job. Brian Kidwell, our animal management, he did an outstanding job collecting donations, everybody else. So it was a collective effort and outstanding job this year. We didn't even get close to this last year, so it's building plenty. The before and after. Guys, thank you so much. Absolutely.
You're hiding back there. Now you can't see her. Oh, that's wonderful. Congratulations, and thanks everyone that participated in this fundraiser. This is wonderful. Thanks, Chief, for letting them do that. So. Okay, thank you. All right, next we have the economic development. Debbie, are you here? Okay.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'll kind of keep this short. I know we've got a long agenda today. So just wanted to bring to your attention, the Small Business Development Center is one of our partners, works with our businesses all the time. And they actually featured the Denver Escape Room in not only the Colorado newsletter, but also it'll be featured in the National as a success story where the Small Business Development Center helped them. We can be really proud of this company. They started just a year ago with 2 employees and a concept, and they will have 8 locations within the next few months, and they're up to 10 employees. So that's a great success story of a startup with an idea that has really made it possible here in the city of Northglenn. Also, in my report, I mentioned that the nationwide economic contribution of Parks and Rec. I think this was a really interesting article. If you read that National Recreation and Parks Association, they indicated that, a lot of times we don't think about Parks and Recs as being an economic generator, but the report shows that $140 billion in the nation is spent in economic activity on Parks and Rec, and that creates over 1 million jobs nationally. Just here in Colorado, that's a $4.6 million economic impact just in Colorado, and over 36,000 jobs are created, and 1.7 million in salaries. So a lot of times we don't look at the other aspects of that. I know last year we reported back on the arts and humanities side of economic impact. So again, just trying to bring the different sides of economic development and the huge impact it does have on our community. A couple events that we've had, just wanted to give you a heads up on that. Business After Hours and Networking event this year will be at Beer by Design. It will be from 5 to 7. We encourage the City Council and Mayor and all of our businesses to come out and enjoy that. We held our 3rd Business Watch, which is similar to our Neighborhood Watch. We held that at the Melody Business Building. We had the Shop Small Saturday on November 28th, which was successful. We asked our businesses to go in there and the patrons to do selfies and to post it to our site. We also have our 9th annual Count the Lights. Thank you very much to the Northglenn Historical Commission for, again, the 9th year for donating the truck for that, and it's at the marketplace. We'll be giving out awards on Monday, so the contest ends at 1 o'clock on Friday. We'll pick up all the contest entries, we'll count them all, and then we'll notify the winners. NURA is donated $2,500 in cash prizes with the grand prize of $1,000. So thank you to NURA. We had the marketplace event this Saturday, so great event. A little cold for everybody, but it was kind of got you in the spirit with the snow falling. We had 3 ribbon cuttings last month, which was Boot Barn. Again, Boot Barn bought Sheplers. We're really pleased to welcome Boot Barn to our community. Mountain View Dentistry, which opened up in the Northglenn Marketplace. And also Texas Roadhouse. It was great to see that happen. The unemployment hit another 10-year low, which is at 3.7 for Northglenn, which is great news. And NURA approved last Monday, we did bring it in front of the mayor and city council, but just wanted for the public to bring it forward, that 104th Avenue and the I-25 landscaping project, that we've approved that. We'll get construction and bids on that in January. Hope to start construction in March or April and start doing the landscaping this spring or summer. So I think that will really bring the gateway into our city and really make a difference there. Couple things on NURA. Also, an incentive to approve a digital sign on 104th Avenue. We know our big sign that's on I-25, but this is to replace the digital sign that's on 104th. So NURA helped with assistance on that. And we also did several business improvement grants for businesses. The DAPS program continues to be strong. And again, that's the digital advertising billboard that is right over by Sheplers and Best Buy, that the city of Northglenn has got a contract with Mile High Signs that we get 6 spots to advertise our Northglenn businesses. And that's for 1 month. The first month it's $200 to advertise on there, which is quite the deal. And then after that, $450 if a business wants to be on there. First, it took a little bit of slow start. I can tell you, we weren't quite sure. Now we have waiting list for people to be on there. So it was a little bit slow start, but now it's really caught on. And it's a great benefit for the businesses that advertise on there. They always want to be on there the next month, I can tell you. It's a great project for all of our businesses. And interestingly enough, I just thought I'd bring this to your attention. I don't know why. I wish I could give you the reason why. But our website page visits, it was really interesting. In November, we got 161 hits on our business Shop Local, or our Shop Northglenn page. Don't know why so many hits last month, but hopefully people were looking to do some shopping at some of our locations. And with that, I don't have anything else to add unless you have some questions.
Questions? Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
All right, next on the agenda is public invited to be heard. Up to 5 minutes per speaker, and anyone can speak on anything other than what we will have under public hearings this evening. So with that, would anyone like to speak to council for up to 5 minutes? Okay, seeing no one approach, we will move to the financial report.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Jason Loveland, Finance Director, to present the October 2015 financial report. I will begin, as always, with an update on sales and use tax. Year-to-date, through October, it's reported an increase of just under $1.5 million, which is a little over 10%. Within that larger figure, accommodations tax is up 4%. Auto sales tax continues to be solid and it's up 20%. And food tax is up 34%. So things that we've heard month after month continued through October. So I just wanted to mention that. A lot of solid things going on in the community for our businesses. So with the general fund, total revenues are $20.5 million, which is 14% increase over the prior year. Operating revenues are up 5%, which is positive strides, a little bit more than we had projected. So we're happy to report that on the general fund side. You'll see on page 2 of the report, most things are very consistent. Licenses and permits, those are up about 33%, and that's due to some new construction. Everything else, I think we've talked about month over month being fairly consistent with what we budgeted and projected. And then, of course, the second to last line, the land sale, which increases our total revenues to the 14% mark when you factor in all aspects, not just the the operating portion. On the expenditure side in the general fund, total expenditures are at $18.4 million, which is 78% of spending through October. That's up 13% over the prior year. That spending is consistent with what we planned for in the budget. Nothing, as we have it broken out on the report by department, really to note from September's report, through October. So everything stayed very consistent month over month. So is there any questions on the general fund specifically?
Questions? Go ahead, Liz.
The water and wastewater fund, total revenues are $11.2 million and total expenditures of 9.7 for a change of just under 1.6 million. You'll see that water usage revenue is up 11.6%. Sewer revenue is up 8.7%. Water resources revenue, and that's non-food sales and use tax dedicated to our utility fund, that's up 11%. And then food tax again is up 34%. The food tax again is dedicated to debt service for our utility funds. And you'll see that on the bottom of page 4. On the expenditure side, you'll see those vary year to year depending on capital improvement projects. And so the budget is at $23 million and we've spent 9.7. So we won't make up the other 60% through the rest of the year, but these are ongoing, long-term, significant projects that will carry forward into 2016. On the stormwater fund, total revenues are just over $323,000 with expenditures of $130,000. Again, revenues are very flat and consistent with prior years as those rates have stayed consistent, and then a month-over-month period as we look from September to October, those stays consistent. Those are up 1.4%, largely due to investment earnings receiving a little bit better return in 2015 than they did in 2014. And then on the expenditure side, those are consistent with expectations for the budget and where we are through this time of year. The sanitation fund, total revenues are at $1.1 million and expenditures of $985,000, which is 50% of the spending for that budget. Again, revenues are fairly consistent. That shows it's down 14%. Last year we had a sale of an asset of $166,000, which is kind of why it shows that we're total operating revenues down 14%. If you look at the fourth line down, you'll see kind of on operational charges for services review that we're down 2.5%, and most of that is due to decline in recycling revenue. The commodity prices, although recycling is gaining speed and we're reading articles about more people participating and more tonnage, the return on that recycling is less. So you'll see a decline of 75% in that revenue from year over year. And then finally, well, I'll go over two more things. Cash and investments at the end of October were $52.8 million. And on page 10, we look at sales and use tax collected by our geocodes, and you'll see all of our areas are doing well. Washington Point, again, as we talked about in September, is down about 8%. But I believe that actually in November they had a turnaround in that area. I don't know that they'll be back to even, but they had some strong returns in November. So most all the areas throughout the entire city are doing very well.
Good.
So, is there any questions on those things or anything else in the report?
Questions, comments?
Are you done with your report?
I am done with my report.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure you weren't going on to something else.
No.
Just an overall general comment. In looking at our year-to-date expenditure rates, our general fund is at 78%, which seems right on because we just have the 2 months left. Then our water and wastewater fund is at 46%, or actually, 42%. The stormwater is also pretty low, and the sanitation fund is low. Am I reading those right? And are you expecting those to increase and come in at about what was projected?
So I think on the general fund, that will happen. On water and wastewater, because of the nature of the capital projects, those will probably continue to fall short. I don't think we'll even get to 60% of the spending necessarily.
So will we have carryovers?
So we will have carryovers, and we're going to talk about the budget later. The carryover portions are estimated in the budget for capital projects, so our operating expenditures expire at year end, so the adoption of the budget allocates dollars to be spent the following year, and then our capital projects are allowed to carry over to the prior year, to the next year. So you'll see some of that reflected in the budget that we'll adopt, hopefully later.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Hearing none. Thank you, Jason. All right, next we have the consent agenda. Please open the vote.
Vote is open.
Please vote. Oh, you're going to have to bear with me 1 minute. I forgot to sign in. So. Okay. Here we go.
We'll close that vote, and the consent agenda passes unanimously.
Thank you. Next is public hearings, and the first one is substantial modification to the Northglenn Urban Renewal Plan 2. And Corey would...
If you could open up the public hearing and then I'll...
Okay, I'll do it. Do you want me to read the script? No. Okay. I'll now open the public hearing on the substantial modification to Northglenn Urban Renewal Plan 2.
Madam Mayor, members of council, tonight the council will be considering a substantial modification to Northglenn Urban Renewal Plan Number 2 later in the agenda under Council Resolution Number 163. But because this is a public hearing under the State Urban Renewal Law, rather than giving you kind of the background during the consideration of the resolution, I'm going to do it during the public hearing to make the public hearing record. So as a substantial modification to an urban renewal plan, this required notice within the urban renewal area that was given. The effect of the substantial modification is to start the 25-year tax increment financing clock on those portions of the already approved Northglenn urban renewal plans for which the clock had not previously been started. The reason is largely related to the impact or unforeseen impacts of House Bill 1348. And I think that's in large part why NURA recommended that council consider this substantial modification. You've gotten a lot of correspondence from me since the adoption of House Bill 1348 at the end of the 2015 legislative session. But I guess the summary pertinent to this item is that one of the things that House Bill 1348 does is creates a great deal of confusion as to the definition of the term project. Under the urban renewal law, project is defined as undertakings and activities, plural. Under House Bill 1348, it is, the term project is used loosely. The governor has convened a technical committee that is still talking about potential amendments, but there's no guarantee that anything will happen. So I think the Urban Renewal Authority's recommendation for you to consider starting the clock is this does create certainty that as to Northglenn's existing plans, they would not be subject to House Bill 1348 because its effective date is January 1st, 2016. So this essentially finalizes all of Northglenn's urban renewal plans, starts the clock on all of their existing plans. If City Council in the future desires to amend one of the existing plans or decides to consider looking at a new plan, it would have to comply with all the provisions of House Bill 1348. But if this is approved tonight, it is not subject to those provisions.
Thank you. Is there anyone here that would like to speak either for or against the substantial modification to the Northglenn Urban Renewal Plan 2? Is there anyone here that would like to speak either for or against it? Okay. I'll now close that public hearing on a substantial modification to the Northglenn Urban Renewal Plan 2. Next, we have CB 1860. Joanna?
A bill for a special ordinance rezoning from planned unit development, PUD, to planned unit development, certain real property in the city of Northglenn, commonly known as the Northglenn Pavilions, in the county of Adams, state of Colorado, and amending the zoning map of the city of Northglenn.
Thank you. I will now open the public hearing on the application for the rezoning of the planned unit development for property generally known as the Northglenn Pavilion, located at 12155 Claude Court. The Northglenn City Council has jurisdiction to conduct this hearing under applicable provisions of its Home Rule Charter and Charters 3 and 11 of the Northglenn Municipal Code. The procedure to be followed in this case will be as follows. City staff will give a brief outline of the nature of the application. The applicant may then present any evidence in support of the application. All persons opposed to the application shall then be entitled to present evidence. Any other interested person shall be entitled to present public comment or evidence. The applicant may then present any rebuttal evidence. Council members may ask questions of the staff, the applicant, and public who testify. All witnesses will be placed under oath by the city clerk and may be cross-examined by any party, counsel for any party, or the members of city council. Are there any objections to the jurisdiction of the city council or to the form or substance of these proceedings? No. Okay. Hearing none, staff may give us a brief outline.
Mayor, council members, Brooke, I believe, has a short presentation to introduce the zoning changes. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I will be brief and succinct as much as I can. So tonight here we have a requested rezone, PUD rezone for an existing development that was originally approved for condominium development. The first phase of the development was approved and only one tower was built. As a result, a new developer has come in to develop the remaining parcel of the land. First off, now that we have this up, I'll point out that the notification was done in accordance with our regulations for public process and public hearing. Tonight, you're considering these following criteria, which is part of the ordinance that you would be considering tonight for approval, the criteria in which we review planned unit development zoning. A vacant lot, it's approximately 3 acres. It was formerly a multifamily development which included condos. Currently, the development is proposing duplexes. Originally, it was 96 units. It's been reduced to 37. The original project was approved in 2002. It was a PUD and preliminary approval, and a subdivision plat was associated with that. This is what is there today. This is the one tower that was built of 12 units. A couple different pictures. Vantage points, this vacant area is part of the proposed developed area for the remaining balance of the land. Here's an aerial photo of the property that we're talking about. This is the surrounding zoning. The yellow depicts the multifamily residential surrounding to the north and west, and also in the middle there is the 12-unit tower. And then to the south is the retail development that was originally associated with the overall development of the area. Cover sheet for the PUD. I'm just going to highlight a couple of the main things that are already in your packet that was part of the Planning Commission staff report. Want to talk about parking. They're providing ample and additional off-street parking above and beyond what's required through our process. No traffic study was required as a result because the density was more than half of what was originally, more than half less than what was originally proposed. When the original development was put in, the utilities were actually installed for the whole development, so we will be reusing the existing infrastructure that's in there. We'll go through certification and such. Also, the drainage is the original drainage was built to accommodate the maximum development of the site. This is what the plat looks like. We're basically consolidating the original lots into one lot as a result of the type of development that we're now looking at. And this area here depicts the utilities and the easement for water and sewer. This is the drainage and stormwater quality. And then here is the easement property that we'll be looking at for access to the utilities, as well as additional easement infrastructure there. That right there is a shared access easement that conveys access to the back property that jointly serves not only the front tower, but also the commercial property. Here is the landscaping, and briefly I'll point out that the proposed landscaping exceeds what's required in the code of 12% to 19.9%, and is in accordance with our standards. These are the elevations of the proposed units. They're approximately 2,000 square feet. One of the things that we asked for the development is to vary the materials and color schemes so that it was a broken up approach, so there was a design aesthetic to it and not a uniform color or style to it. So this is a rendering that you would see as part of the overall development of the individual duplexes. Here's some information regarding the easement, and also because there's a little bit of public infrastructure associated with this, also on your docket tonight is a council resolution concerning the subdivision improvement agreement associated with the public infrastructure improvements that are still to remain as a result of the redevelopment of the property. It's approximately $15,000 worth of infrastructure. For those who are new to council, typically when we have new development, any public infrastructure has an obligation to provide security and a guarantee so that in the event the project doesn't move forward, we can actually complete the infrastructure. And then lastly, your options, approve with conditions, deny for reasons stated, and then and/or table for further consideration. Our recommendation is to approve the ordinance as presented. And also, just as a footnote, the applicant entered into the subdivision agreement, which is also on your council agenda tonight. With that, I'll open up to any questions.
Are there any questions for Brooke?
Is this going to be a rentals or owner occupants?
They're going to be developed for sale.
For sale, perfect. Thank you.
Brooke, what was the reasoning for going from 96 to just 37, and how is the land that's not being used, what is it going to be used for?
So I think the first part of your question is that why is the original development not being developed as opposed to what's being
It's a significant decrease in the amount of housing options that are available.
Sure. That was what the applicant brought forward as far as a development proposal in which they thought that they could bring to market and develop appropriately. So in the context of the additional densities, I think what we have heard anecdotally from other developers regarding this site is that the construction defect law is one of the key factors associated with the original type of development as an impediment to that. And this particular type of development would not necessarily be as subject to or as risk opposed to that issue.
Okay. Any other questions? Thanks, Brooke.
Thank you.
Okay. Before we move on, how many people are going to be testifying this evening on this rezoning? Can you tell me? Raise your hand or stand up. Is there anyone here that's going to be testifying? Either for or against? Is the applicant here?
I'm here.
Okay. So you would be testifying?
I can answer questions if anybody has any.
What we want to do is swear you in, so we're just wondering who else is here, either speaking for or against, or, so, okay, so the applicant and then the lady right there, and then is there anyone else? Okay, would you stand and have Joanna give you the oath?
So if you'll both raise your right hand, please. Do you swear under the penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so I'm inviting the applicant to come forward and present to us anything you have that you might want to tell us.
I really don't have anything new. The staff here at Northglenn's been fabulous to work with. We had some issues regarding what was done in the past that had to be undone and some new things created, and so I think that all happened and was unanimously approved in October via the Planning Commission. And so now we're here to address public concern and additional council and mayoral concerns with the project.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions?
Originally, all the buildings were supposed to look like that first one.
Correct.
So you're like singling out or making like attached homes essentially?
Basically,
That's what they
yes.
are, instead of
Going
a big
up.
condo
right.
type thing?
We have the same basic footprint, but the buildings obviously were much taller.
Right.
Because of the construction defects, issues here in the state of Colorado now, it's really not anything anybody wants.
I would assume the houses are, or the living space is gonna be more than what the condos would have provided?
Oh, tremendously. They're 2,600 square feet, plus outdoor living space. They have rooftop decks. So they'll be quite large. 2-car garages, plus driveway parking. And then there's a substantial amount of parking within the development that's already installed.
Any other questions?
Are those the streets that go in front of the attached homes? Are those one way? I got confused when I was reading.
No, you can go both ways.
You can go both ways there?
Yep.
Okay.
You know, right side of the street, stay on the right, and turn around and stay on the
I'm
left.
gonna do it backwards.
The current building right now has an HOA, is that correct?
Correct.
Now, and I assume that your development's gonna have an HOA as well?
We will have, so there's a couple, we're still talking to the HOA and our council about which way to go, and I'm sure this lady here is to address the council. We can join their HOA, we can leave their HOA in place and create a sub-HOA for the new, so you have a new building HOA and an old building HOA, and then create a third HOA that would manage the common areas of the whole property. And so those are the kind of things we're looking at. And in our subdivision improvement agreement, I think Planning Commission asked us to have that in place prior to selling the first unit. So we've got a little bit of work left to do there, but.
All right, are there any other questions for the applicant? Yes.
I'm just curious if you get approval, what your construction time frame is and actually what the starting price on the houses will be.
Construction timeline, I am ready to submit construction drawings to the building department for approval this week. So I'm waiting on HVAC drawings to come back. Structurals and architecturals are all done. I do not know what the approval timeline or process is, or how they're going to critique what we've done. So obviously I have to get through that and pull a permit. As far as the sales price, probably in the high 3s to low to mid 4s, depending on the level of finish that somebody taken. The units are 2,600 square feet, so they're a nice size.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, thank you. We may call you up again. So.
No problem.
All right. Are there any persons opposed to the application here that want to speak? No?
I'm not opposed, but I have a comment. Is that okay?
Go ahead, come on up.
So my name is Kristen Backstrom. I'm a representative of the HOA in that one standalone building at 12165 Claude Court. And as you were talking about the changes that would be made to the PUD, we love the fact that the new development is going to be happening, but the concerns that we still have around parking is a big issue because we do not believe that there is enough, considering that we're sharing some of that space as well. And we have underground parking in our building in an underground garage where maybe 1 or 2 cars are available to park per unit. So when we would have guests or kind of any form of company at the lofts, there's no place to park because it's all going to the new spot. In addition to that, we, as our building stood in the original PUD, we have the access to the water, to the electric, and to the gas. And so the easements that the new developer is looking for is going to have to be negotiated with us. And we'd like to see that happen before they actually start construction so that the costs of the utilities that would be shared or not would be taken care of and handled so our costs don't go through the roof. And that's really the biggest concerns that we have, and we just wanted to publicly address that with you now. That's all.
Yep. Well, are there any questions for this lady? Any questions? No?
No.
Okay.
Can I
Yes.
go back to the developer though?
Yes, you may.
As far as the parking, that was kind of an interesting comment that you brought up. There's no street parking on there, it's just driveways, and then where is the additional parking located?
On the very west side, can we get that map back up? That one will work there. So on the far left, does this have a pointer on it?
It doesn't work.
Doesn't work. So on the far left, I'm gonna come over here. So right now, all these parking spaces are in here. And then there are parking spaces in front of this building here, and there's parking spaces across here.
How many parking spaces are up against the left-hand side? The west side?
The west side here, oh boy.
20.
There's 20?
20.
So they're, okay. And how many of those are designated handicap spots?
I believe 3 or 4. There's 3.
3?
Yeah. And you have 2 in the front side.
Madam Mayor, Council, if I may, I'd also point out that as far as a single-family dwelling unit, they're also meeting the off-street parking requirements with the 2-car garage as well as driveway parking. So I'd also point that out as part of the consideration tonight. And I would also mention that the additional parking that's referenced in the back was originally laid out as part of the original condo development. And I also understand the concerns that were stated in the front, which is the parking that actually, the drainage area and that parking strip is actually part of the development. However, I understand that they're working to negotiate the issue of that. And on top of that, you'll see there's parking spaces that run along the north line there as well. So from a residential development, that's why our staff recommendation didn't see any of this as a concern.
What is our parking requirement? And I'm assuming that this meets our parking requirement if it was a staff recommendation.
It's 2 spaces per dwelling unit.
Okay. And then the item that went to the planning commission says that there are 5 handicap spaces. So
Yeah, I believe that if you
maybe-
take into account the parking that runs along the front of the condo and then also to the north over there, but I believe on the back, there's, I think, 3.
There's 3 on the back, 2 in the front.
2 in the front, so that's 5.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I
Sorry.
can't see that at all, and I can't see the ones in
Right,
there. so-
unfortunately, yeah.
Just wanted to make sure when Joe said 3, I just wanted to double check on that.
Absolutely.
Would I mislead you?
Yes.
And probably would sometimes, but.
I know.
The other thing that the member from the HOA for the existing building brought up was also the easement. One of the requirements for the recording of the plat, which is not for consideration tonight because it's considered at the planning commission level, the condition of approval for the plat is that the easement needs to be recorded prior to recording of the plat. So without recording of the plat, they can't do the subdivision improvement agreement, which means they can't get a building permit. So we have provisions built in place to resolve the issues that you've heard tonight through our subdivision approval process.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? No. Okay, does the applicant want to say anything else about the application, the project, response to the lady that's right there at all, or are you going to be talking to?
We will be, we have been in contact and we will be.
All right, thank you. Council members, do you have any other questions? Okay. With that, I will close the public hearing on the rezoning application for the Northglenn Pavilions. And the next thing we have is CB 1861. Joanna?
A bill for an ordinance amending the Northglenn Municipal Code regarding flood regulations.
Okay. I will now open the public hearing on CB 1861. Is there anyone here that would like to speak either for or against CB 1861? Seeing no one approach, I'll close that public hearing and we will move to ordinance's second reading. And Joanna, would you read the title again, please?
This is for CB 1860, a bill for a special ordinance rezoning from planned unit development, PUD, to planned unit development, certain real property in the city of Northglenn, commonly known as the Northglenn Pavilions, in the county of Adams, state of Colorado, and amending the zoning map of the city of Northglenn.
Second. Okay, David, do you have anything else to?
No, it's just a follow-up from what Brooke already mentioned to council.
Discussion? Questions? Yes, Kim?
I just have, I guess, one comment, and this is directed probably more at council, that I wish we had looked at our construction defects legislation before this came to us. And I know we're coming up and going to be doing that next year, early next year, that I'm quite honestly, I'm pretty disappointed in the loss of 47 units that we could have for our community. This looks like a good development, but I'm still pretty disappointed in that loss of units.
Good. Kyle?
I think, on another note, I think, I'm definitely happy to see owner-occupant units starting to be built in Northglenn, but the concern I have is that the price range is, $400,000 to $450,000. That's not affordable. And I think that we have a real issue, not only in Northglenn, but in the state of Colorado, on affordable housing. And I think that that's something else I think the council needs to look at too, is that with some developments coming up, what are we going to do to make sure that some of these units are going to be affordable for our residents? Because I know that I can't afford that kind of house. And if I can't afford it, then I know that there's a lot of other people that can't afford it. And I think that's pretty sad. So hopefully we can start looking at that with some bigger developments coming down the road and try to solve that issue too.
Okay, thank you. Any other discussion? Hearing none, please open the vote.
Vote is open.
Please vote.
I'll close that vote, and CB 1860 on second reading passes unanimously.
Thank you. Next is CB 1861. Joanna?
A bill for an ordinance amending the Northglenn Municipal Code regarding flood regulations.
Move to approve.
Second.
David?
Mayor, council members, this is a result of master planning effort by Irma Drainage Flood Control District, Thornton, Westminster, and Adams County to study the Big Dry Creek Basin and update their floodplain mapping. The result of that effort showed little backwater that spilled into Section 36, our Weld County, which is resulting in us, which we'd have to do sooner or later, because Weld County is about 2 years behind Adams County, updating our flood hazard ordinance in conjunction with that study.
Thank you. Discussion?
I was just gonna, what impact does this have on our residents?
It has, if you look in the exhibit, it has very little impact on our residents. In fact, it would strengthen positions. Well, Big Dry Creek, first of all, doesn't come through what I call the lower 48 or the main part of Northglenn. It only barely touches Section 36, so it has really very little impact. And right now, of course, there is a study going on Grange Hall Creek as well, and all these studies improve the floodplain mapping and hopefully reduce insurance risks to the residents that are in the floodplain or taken out of the floodplain.
And if I could add one thing, approving the ordinance has very little impact. Failing to approve it has a significant impact, which is that if the council doesn't approve this, then folks in Northglenn wouldn't be eligible for flood insurance.
Thank you, that's exactly what I wanted our residents to know.
Okay. Any other discussion? Hearing none, please open the vote.
Vote is open.
Please vote.
I'll close that vote, and CB 1861 on second reading passes unanimously.
Thank you. Just as a little note, when we were talking about affordable housing a second ago, there was a little conversation that I was part of earlier today, and they were discussing affordable housing, and compared to the other cities in the area, we have the affordable housing. So I just thought I'd throw that out to you. All right, ordinance's first reading. Joanna, CB 1859.
A bill for an ordinance amending the Northglenn Municipal Code concerning backflow prevention in the city's water distribution system.
Move to approve.
Second.
Mayor and council members, this is a result of an effort by CDPHC. They've basically upgraded the regulations as it relates to backflow prevention and cross connection. That's essentially keeping multifamily, industrial, and commercial users that connect to our water system as a separate system, or one-way flow, and not having contaminations backflow into our system. And this is giving us more clout, I guess, on the municipal code, in short.
Thank you. Discussion? Hearing none, please open the vote.
Vote is open.
Please vote.
I'll close that vote, and CB 1859 on first reading passes unanimously.
Thank you. Next is CB 1863.
A bill for a special ordinance rezoning from C4 Commercial Restricted Service with conditions to C4 Commercial Restricted Service, certain real property in the city of Northglenn located at 550 West 104th Avenue, City of Northglenn, County of Adams, State of Colorado, amending the zoning map of the city of Northglenn and imposing penalties for violations of the ordinance.
Move to approve. Again?
David?
Mayor, council members, this is another minor zoning change. It goes from C4 commercial to commit conditions to C4 commercial, which I think more appropriately reflects the potential use in that property. It's a savings and loan right now, and there's potential for other more significant uses there.
Okay. Thank you. Discussion? Hearing none, please open the vote.
Vote is open.
Please vote.
I'll close that vote, and CB 1863 on first reading passes unanimously. And I would like to note for the record that the public hearings on CB 1859 and 1863 will be held on January 11th, 2016, here in City Hall Council Chambers.
Thank you. We'll move to resolutions next on the agenda, and the first one is CR 162.
A resolution of the Northglenn City Council approving a non-substantial modification to the Northglenn Urban Renewal Plan Number 1 by the addition of an addendum addressing House Bill 15-1348.
Second.
Excuse me. David or Corey?
I think this one's me, Madam Mayor, members of council. When we were talking about the substantial modification, which is your next item, I identified two issues that considered. One was starting the TIF clock, and the other was the impacts of House Bill 1348. This non-substantial modification only addresses the impacts of House Bill 1348 and is intended only to clarify the city's existing plans as it relates to the definitional problems I was discussing earlier. Specifically, this identifies that all of the items in the addendum were contemplated to be within the meaning of the term project when the plan was first adopted. And so this isn't intended to change anything, it is intended to clarify what was originally contained within the plan.
Thank you. Discussion?
I just think it's important to protect our interests, and I would assume every other city is doing exactly the same thing before January 1st. So,
They
yes, it's a good
absolutely
thing.
are. Yeah, I just, for the record, I think that it's kind of crummy that all of the cities are having to do this because of poor legislation, so.
Any other discussion? Please open the vote.
Vote is open.
Please vote.
I'll close that vote, and CR 162 passes unanimously.
Thank you. Next is CR 163.
A resolution of the Northglenn City Council approving a substantial modification to the Northglenn Urban Renewal Plan 2, one, by the addition of an addendum addressing House Bill 15-1348, and two, to implement a TIF in all areas in Northglenn Urban Renewal Plan 2 not currently subject to a TIF.
Second. Corey?
And I can certainly answer any questions, but I think I went through this during the public hearing.
Okay. Discussion? Questions? Hearing none, please open the vote.
The vote is open.
Please vote.
I'll close that vote, and CR 163 passes unanimously.
Thank you. Next is 169.
A resolution adopting the City of Northglenn 2016 pay plan.
Move to approve.
Mayor, council members, there's two parts to this. The market increases and the said ranges vary from 1% to 2%. Doesn't affect a whole lot of our city staff. And the second part of this are changes, job title and reclassifications, and the three that are in your memo are the teeny tiny tot aide to preschool aide title, and then teeny tiny tot instructor to preschool instructor, and then the third and last one would be risk manager to risk analyst.
I think you should say teeny tiny pot 5 times fast and see what happens.
And say it quickly.
I was lucky to get through two.
All right, discussion? Hearing none, please open the vote.
Vote is open.
Please vote.
I'll close that vote, and CR 169 passes unanimously.
Thank you. Next is CR 170.
A resolution setting minimum and maximum salary ranges for the City of Northglenn department heads.
Mayor and council, this only affects one director, the chief of police, public works, parks and recreation, planning and development, finance and technology remain the same we're proposing remain the same for 2016. Director of Management Services, an increase of 4%.
Thank you. Discussion?
I just wanted to point out that 4% is in line with what our other staff in the city are getting this year, is what have been proposed.
Okay. Any other discussion? Please open the vote.
Vote is open.
Please vote.
We'll close that vote, and CR 170 passes unanimously.
Thank you. Next is CR 171.
A resolution adopting the 2016 budget of the City of Northglenn, Colorado, and appropriating the sums set forth therein.
Move to approve.
Mayor and Councilman, this is simply the approval of the operating budget and the capital CIP program, which Jason has talked about earlier.
Discussion?
Mayor?
Yes.
I just want to publicly thank our staff for the excellent work they did this year on the budget, and for all of us sitting through all the budget meetings and asking good questions. It takes a lot of work for our budget to be adopted in the city, and it's one of our guiding documents for our city. This is what we know we're going to spend our money on next year, so I just want to say thank you, and thanks to all the staff, all the department heads, and everybody who contributed to the document this year.
Thank you. Any other discussion?
I'm just glad we're moving forward on a couple of the big capital projects that we've had in the works for a long time. So it's good to see those coming to fruition a little bit, using some of that money for some good infrastructure things for the city, so.
Okay. Any other discussion? Thank you. Please open the vote.
The vote is open.
Please vote.
I'll close that vote, and CR 171 passes unanimously.
Thank you. Next is CR 177.
A resolution adopting the City of Northglenn Emergency Operations Plan.
Second.
Mayor, council members, this is the long-awaited plan that we talked about in the study session. It's our emergency operations plan, and just want to remind our public this is a high-level framework plan. We're going to start practicing some of the components of this plan with each department, what roles they play in the management center, and hopefully be able to respond to any kind of disaster that comes up. So we hopefully endorse this tonight.
Thank you. Discussion? Hearing none, please open the vote.
The vote is open.
Please vote.
I'll close that vote, and CR 177 passes unanimously.
Next is CR 180.
A resolution approving the Northglenn Pavilion Filing Number 4 Subdivision Improvement Agreement between the City of Northglenn and Claude Court 140 LLC.
Second. David.
This is the subdivision improvement agreement that Brooke alluded to earlier. It's basically the infrastructure pieces that are going to be required to support the new development. There's only a couple small components that weren't complete during the first phase, and this just ensures that the final components get in place before they build the new sections.
Thank you. Discussion? Hearing none, please open the vote.
Vote is open.
Please vote.
Close that vote, and CR 180 passes unanimously.
Thank you. Next is CR 181.
A resolution establishing the mill levy of the City of Northglenn, Colorado for the fiscal year 2015, collectible in 2016 for municipal purposes.
Move to approve.
Second.
Mayor, I'm pleased to say here in accordance to the Colorado revised statute that in our estimates for appraised values have increased quite significantly to about roughly $270 million, which results in about $3 million of revenue to the general fund.
Thank you. Discussion?
Do you think all the municipalities in Adams County receive such a high jump like that?
I would
You don't
assume that, I think a lot of properties have, like I said, I think affordable housing here has gone through the roof, and I was just a little surprised to see the 13.9% increase, but I would suspect that most are pretty high.
Yeah, it's just such a huge jump. I was also curious if when they do their preliminary property evaluation and then they come back and they have till December 10th to change that, does it ever get changed? Do you notice a change in it?
I don't know the answer. If Jason's still here, perhaps he knows.
So yes, it typically does change a small amount. I don't remember, I know Weld and Adams County both changed us a little bit. They actually increased on the final version. Part of our increase this year being so high, 14.9%, is the new construction that we have at Webster Lake Promenade that wasn't on the tax roll when they did the last assessment. So part of that is due to that. And then just in general, as you know, with housing and the market increasing, that played a part of that as well.
Thanks, Jason.
Any other?
How long have we been at this mill levy? Do you know?
Years.
Just so that our residents know that we've been steady and we haven't raised taxes on y'all.
Good point. Any other discussion? Please open the vote.
The vote is open.
Please vote.
We'll close that vote, and CR 181 passes unanimously.
Thank you. Next is CR 182.
A resolution setting the salary of the city clerk.
Move to approve.
David?
Yeah, Mayor and council members, the clerk is one of the, I think, 4 positions that report to city council, and as such, this is a resolution to provide an annual raise for the city clerk.
Thank you. Discussion?
I just have a little bit of an issue, and maybe the council members that are on the performance appraisal committee can help me answer some of these. So I know that the email that was sent out says that we're trying to cut the difference, that our city clerk is 10% behind, and that we're trying to do a 5% increase to try to cut the difference. But I went back and looked at what we did for the rest of staff last year, and we had some of staff that I think were negative 18%, and we adjusted them all the way up to the minimum of where they should be. And so I'm curious of why we didn't do that with the clerk, and instead of bumping her all the way up to the minimum, only did half of what we did for the rest of staff.
I think we thought that most people would have an issue with that. So that's pretty much
It was, well,
the answer.
10%.
That people would have an issue with the 10%?
Yes.
But I'm looking at consistency, and I'm seeing what we did for the rest of staff. I'm not quite sure why we wouldn't stay consistent with somebody that falls under us.
We didn't take into consideration that. I can tell you that honestly. We didn't even talk about that.
I would like to.
And we brought, I believe everybody is now up to the point where they're -2, isn't that 9% of the top?
I don't think everybody's there. There are a few that are behind, but
Right.
Joanna was significantly
Right.
behind. She was
And so
the
that's what we
most
brought her
behind
up.
that we had. So instead of do the full, well, it would have been 8% to bring her to the -2.
But last year, with one of our staff, we adjusted their salary by 17%, which blows the 10% way out of the water. And so that I'm not all right with 5%. And another question I have is, I know that the 3% was taken into account and kind of in the middle, and maybe staff can help me with this. Is that 3%, is that merit-based? Or I guess that's a question I have.
Maybe
I always
Paula?
thought it was merit-based.
Paula?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Paula Jensen, Director of Management Services. So for general staff, there's 2 types of ways or salary increases that you can receive throughout the year. The merit increase and the market adjustment. The market adjustment is based on the salary survey that I presented earlier this year, and that is comparing our salary ranges to the salary ranges of 10, this year it was 10 survey cities. With market, the range is moving, and what the leadership decided this year to present to City Council was that we would move salary ranges to get our average within -2 of the combined average of our survey cities. So if a position was 10% behind, it moved, the range is moving 8%. It's still going to be 2% behind, but that was our goal.
Which is different from last year, though. Last year.
It is, and I'm going to get there in just a second. And so as that range moves at the beginning of the year with the passing of the budget tonight, that employee, the incumbent, no matter how many incumbents are in that position, are going to shift also with that move. That's market. A merit increase is received on the employee's annual anniversary date, provided that their supervisor submits a performance evaluation to Human Resources and it's satisfactory, they receive a 3% merit increase. That is separate from the market. So an employee whose position is 3% behind would receive a market adjustment of 1% at the beginning of the year. Their anniversary date is in April, they would receive another 3% increase, for a total of 4% during the year, if you look at it that way. Last year, we did something much different. Last year, we took the market survey, and we did have positions that were double digits behind, like you're speaking of that one that was 17% or 18% behind. The goal last year was to get our ranges where they needed to be. So if a position was 18% behind, we moved that entire range 18%. So the minimum moved up 18%, the maximum moved up 18%. The employee did not necessarily move 18% last year. We capped market at 3%. However, if that adjustment of that range left the employee below the minimum, then they received whatever percent it was to get them to the minimum. And that's what you're remembering, is that yes, indeed, there was some employees, a handful of them, who received double-digit increases. But because we made that huge range adjustment, we had to make those incumbent adjustments also. But by and large, employees who received market adjustments last year only received 3%. I had another really good thing I was going to say. Man, I was just so on a roll, too.
Paul, real quick, not to cut you off.
That's all right. Ask me a question, it might come back to me.
Is that same, trying to get within 2% of the minimum, the same idea of shifting the salary, the minimum and the maximum?
Yes, and thank you for asking that. Now I remember what I was going to say. So because we made those huge adjustments last year on those ranges, when you look at the pay plan that you just approved, you can see there's very few positions that are receiving a market adjustment, because we made that big step last year and cut down a lot of those deficits. So, it's a card game every year, and I say it every time I do that presentation in June. It's so subjective, and so we've made these changes this year. We made those huge changes last year, and then we still had positions that were behind. I mean, the positions that moved 17%, those ranges that moved 17% last year, are still 4% behind this year. Because I can't control what those other cities are doing, So it's a game of shuffle. Now, the city clerk's position, one of the things that council should keep in mind is there's not a range. There's not a salary range in the pay plan. That position is not in the pay plan, similar to the city manager's position. So there's no range. So data can be pulled, but basically what we're comparing, and when I presented data to the Councilman Brown and Mayor Downing, we're looking at the actual salary, or you're looking at the actual salary of the city clerk in comparison to the average actual salary of those survey cities. So you're not looking at a range comparison. So that -10 is the city clerk's salary is 10% behind, her actual salary is 10% behind the actual average of all of those cities combined. So.
Perfect, thank you, Paul, I
You're
appreciate that. So with that being said, Mayor, I'm just all about consistency. I would like our clerk to be treated the same as our employees are being treated, and I think that getting her within, the 2% that we're talking about is appropriate, and I think, leaving the merit increase out of that equation is also appropriate. I think that that we should be looking at an 8% increase and then the 3% merit increase.
Is that a motion?
I guess, do I need to do a friendly? Would that be?
Who made the original motion?
I think I did.
Councilmember Snetzinger made the motion, and Joe Brown seconded the motion.
Okay. Would that be a friendly?
Well, it's
Could
up
that
to the
be-
maker and the second.
Is that okay? Kim?
Yes, I guess.
All right, is there?
And the second as well?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay, so is there a discussion on the second motion? Hearing none, please open the vote.
Well, for clarification, this is on the original motion with the friendly amendment?
Right,
Okay.
right.
And then we will have to fill in the number, I think, once we figure out what the percentages are, but yes.
Okay, thank you for that.
The vote is open.
Okay, please vote.
Can we just have a point of clarification just to make sure that Councilmember Brown understands what she's voting on?
Yeah, please, thank you. The comment was made just a few seconds ago about just a reminder that this is off of the old agreement, right? The old salary request. So what is my negative vote at this point going to affect to this? If I were to vote negative on that, would she not be eligible for the 8%? Or?
It wouldn't affect anything. This is a friendly, it's still part of the original motion, only if there was...
The motion as amended by the friendly is to give, as I understand it, an 8% increase.
Right.
Okay.
So there's no number associated with that, but that's, so a yes vote is for an 8% increase and a no is for no increase.
Not better than 8% plus 3%.
Right.
So really 11%.
It's 11%.
Not 8.
Is that what you intended?
Yeah, I want her to be treated just the same as every other staff member is treated. So yes.
Okay. Any other discussion? Okay, I had opened the vote, so please vote.
We'll close that vote, and CR 182, as amended, passes unanimously.
Thank you. All right, next we'll have communications, and Antonio will go over there. Start with you.
Start with me.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. I find myself volunteering at Northglenn High School quite a bit. Everyone knows, I assume, I have a passion for education, and this last one was on Project Citizen. These kids were amazing. They not only presented the Huron Center, and I mean, they did an excellent job of presenting that. They also brought to attention that there was no school zone marking at Northglenn High School, nowhere. And that school's been there 50 years. And I live in that neighborhood, and I never even noticed.
Right.
I mean, it's just, these are ninth graders, and they're just amazing. Attended the legislative breakfast, the employee appreciation at Cinzetti's, which I want to say is that it is a wonderful partner in this community who can feed all of Northglenn employees. It was just amazing the amount of people that were there, and what a wonderful business to have in our district. Attended the legislative breakfast and the CPAN holiday party, which was a lot of fun. And I want to wish everybody blessed holidays and safe travel and build memories. That's what life's about, building memories. Thank you.
Thank you. Marcy.
And I stopped in on Saturday at the marketplace for their holiday event. They had reindeer and the Clydesdale horses, and I think I got there a little late and it was snowing, so I think a lot of the crowd had already left, but I hope it was a very successful event for them. And I wish everybody a Merry Christmas.
Becky.
Oh, I actually was able to attend the Citizens Police Academy holiday party on Friday night. It was a lot of fun, it really was. Antonio, was dancing on the tables and everything. It was a lot of fun. But I would just like to take a minute to remind the public that this is an excellent program to go through the Citizens Police Academy, to understand how our police department works and the ins and outs of different areas. And we would love to have them join our, what would it be, Joseph, a sorority?
What?
CPAN, what do you want to call it? Alumni.
Alumni Association.
Hey, I was close, our Alumni Association. He's on it.
Did you hear
I thought
that?
sorority was perfect. I thought it was perfect for him.
There are gentlemen in that group.
Well, I told you, Antonio was on the tables.
Yes.
But, I just would like to remind everybody about that, and Merry Christmas to all, Happy Holidays, be safe. Thank you.
Karen.
Okay, I just want to say that 112th Avenue is open for business. If you live on our side of Washington, you were so happy this morning because you went out there and it was free and clear. No cones, there were painted lines. Yes, it was amazing to drive that road. The businesses are so happy that it's open and they don't have those horrible access that they had before. So thank you for doing that, and I know that they're still having the landscaping and everything, but that's probably spring, right? They're not even going to do any of that right now.
Spring.
Spring, okay. But it's great that it's open, yay. A couple of things, at the senior organization meeting this morning, they did tell us that they made $877 on their bake sale in Northglenn, so that's pretty good. That's a lot of money for baked goods. And Steve Austin, who is such a great member, and he does the bike rehab and the bike giveaway for CPAN, they have over 300 bikes to give away this year for the Christmas Crusade. So that's a really great amount, and he's just so awesome. I love Steve Austin, so he can do no wrong for me. The CML board, I've been really busy with that. We've been doing so many things and so many meetings, but basically, they've been working on their strategic plan and their budget we've approved and going over opposition or support of the legislation that's coming forward. So I'll keep you in the loop when anything actually gets going, but right now the policy committee is just kind of taken a position and the board has backed it, so that's ongoing. Merry Christmas to all and happy, what else? Happy New Year. Sorry.
You're good.
I feel better.
I know. Okay, so I just want to thank the Northglenn Chorale for coming this evening. They're awesome.
That was
They
wonderful.
always volunteer their time, and they come just anytime we ask them, so that's wonderful, and I do appreciate that. I was over at the marketplace on Saturday around 10 o'clock. I had another meeting, so I just stayed there, and we did that. It was cold, it was snowing. There was a reindeer out there, and there was a few other things, but there were people, and then they enjoyed it. It was very nice. Also, I went to the legislative brunch. Antonio was there, and the legislators pretty much gave a brief overview of what they were looking at doing this coming year. Some of the things are URA updates and amendments and legislation. Some of them will be looking at water issues. There's some people legislators that'll be looking at affordable housing. And then we have one legislator later that is actually looking at workforce equity in pay as well as other things. So it's a real broad category that they're looking at, and I think they'll have their hands full for sure. So other than that, I just want to mention the City Hall looks beautiful, upstairs and downstairs. Thank you whoever did it. When you go drive into the rec center and into the outside, it's awesome. So please tell whoever worked on these things, the city looks beautiful. It looks beautiful, and thank you so much. So, with that.
I too went to the CPAN holiday party and would like to congratulate the new president of CPAN, Tricia Quinn. She will take over for the next year and probably years to come. So congratulations to her, and happy holidays. Merry Christmas.
I know.
What?
Nothing.
Happy holidays.
I said nothing.
Your lights on.
Okay.
I much like Antonio got to go to Northglenn High School last week. It's so great to see the energy these kids have and to see what they really deem as change and what they really want to change within our city. And like Antonio said, there's things that we don't think of that they've thought of, and they're innovative ways on how they can do it at the local level and also the state level. With snow coming, snowstormers are still in need of more volunteers. If you have some time to give back, not only do you have to do it in the morning, you can do it when you get home from work or anything like that. It's just good to give back to people who aren't able to do that. Save the date, Ward 1 meeting, along with Carol, January 21st, 6:30 to 8:30 at Leroy Drive Elementary School. And happy holidays. Feliz Navidad and Happy New Year.
I just want to make another point that I think tonight's presentation really outlined that I think as a council, we need to really look at affordable housing. I know some may think that Northglenn has affordable housing or is the place for affordable housing, but I think that as a state, we're starting to see that evaporate and disappear, and new developments that are at, $400,000 or $450,000, that's not affordable, and we need to figure out a way that we keep some affordability in our developments at least. And so I would encourage us to really, think about that long and hard and figure out, what we can do about that. With that said, Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
I have a whole list, so I'll try to be kind of quick, but the Parks and Rec Advisory Board met last week, and they approved a fee waiver for Thornton High School for the Future Business Leaders of America. They're going to be doing a Wounded Warriors Walk on the 26th of March, and I invited them to come to council and challenge us to participate in that. So hopefully they will come and issue a challenge for participation. We'll see if they do or not. We also looked at some fees, and there are some increases, and that'll be coming before council. They also looked at a updated fee waiver policy, and that's waiting review is just a preliminary, so Corey's working on that, and then the board will review and vote if that's the next meeting. The appointed board, so we have almost a full board. We're missing one spot, but Karen Knupfer was voted in as the chairperson. Susan was voted in as the vice chairperson, and Avery Anderson is the secretary. So both of our newly appointed folks to that got roped into being on the executive panel for that. Look what happens to y'all. You show up and, there was only 3 people at the time when it happened, so those 3 people got in there. And then there's also looking for a procedure to allow for the director of the Parks and Rec to approve fee waivers when there cannot be a quorum present for a meeting and the request is coming up before a new meeting can take place. That's been an issue over the last several months where fee waivers just weren't being able to be acted on, so that we're looking at that as well. So it was a nice meeting, and we got some business done, so that was nice. I just wanted to echo the mayor's words and thanks to Northglenn Corral for coming out tonight. I already tweeted them that they were here for us when they were doing it, so made sure and give them some props for that. It was just beautiful. Merry Christmas to everyone. I'm gonna get that in there before I start that. And then some things that was going on here at the city. We're still, with the holidays, we're still doing clothing donations as well as food donations. Those are open until, not May, goodness gracious. Well, we'll take them till May, we'll just give them away next year. But the 18th, and then we're also doing the socks, so the socks for the homeless, and those will have collection bins open until December 31st for those. And then I, unfortunately, am not going to be able to be here for our long-term employee awards on the 17th. And I just think it's really nice that we have employees who stick with us. So we have for 10, and I'm just going to read their names because I don't know that we always give our folks enough recognition, especially these folks who are here quite a while. So for 10 years of service, we have LaDonna Martinez, Josh Davidson, Norma Menares, Todd Fields, Chance Bignon. And then 15 years, we have Susan Baca, and 20 years, Ron Behrens. So just a hand to all of those folks who, that's a lot of years of service for our community, especially in a day and age when there's not a whole lot of loyalty, it seems like, out there in the employment world. And that's it. So thank you. That's finally it.
All right. Joanna.
Just a couple quick items. Speaking of boards and commissions, you may have noticed that the communications group highlighted the Historic Preservation Commission in the last issue of the Connection newsletter. And so we've requested that the Planning Commission is highlighted this next month since they have a couple vacancies for regular members, and we're hoping that that will generate some interest among the residents to volunteer to serve on those boards and commissions. And then, of course, I want to wish everybody a happy holiday season. And then I'd also like to thank City Council for the consideration of 182, CR 182, and obviously the approval. But I really do appreciate the consideration for that resolution, so thank you.
You're welcome. David?
Nothing tonight, Mayor.
Corey?
Just one item, and that is that sometime in advance of your January meeting where there's a council orientation, I'll be providing you a litigation update. But there's one item that probably can't wait, just so that you're aware, and that is that on your behalf, I did ask CML for amicus participation in the existing lawsuit where the city's ordinance regulating medical marijuana was determined by the Adams County District Court to be found unconstitutionally vague. The Attorney General's office from the state of Colorado is involved. They made the request that we ask CML to participate, so I asked if their amicus committee would look at participating. The briefs are due January 5th, although we think the court will extend that to January 19th, so time was short. And because this CML will look and see what other communities have taken the state's language, which is exactly what Northglenn did, which is why the Attorney General is involved, and we would anticipate getting a response fairly quickly.
Okay.
And other than that, happy holidays.
Thank you very much. Okay.
Madam Mayor, can I have a point of personal privilege?
Yes.
I overlooked something that's very important.
No, that's fine.
My grandson came all the way from South Ogden, Utah to spend the weekend with his grandma. And I drive him to a city council meeting.
Welcome. So do you want to speak? We have public invited to be heard next. Would you like to speak about, and tell us about your grandfather?
You're going to be a politician.
All right. Next on the agenda is public invited to be heard. Anyone that wants to speak to us for up to 3 minutes is welcome. I don't see anyone rushing up here, so I do want to wish everyone a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, and we are adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.